All right, guys, wanted to give y'all an update on the garden space, how we're doing. Okay, so in my last video I talked to you guys about my zinnias, which are now finally growing. I have zinnias in every single corner of this garden box. I also have some little tomato plants that are finally starting to sprout. The insects are already getting to them, so I just ordered some insecticide, a natural insecticide off of Amazon. Just try to see if I can deter the bugs from eating up the plants, because they're just really going into them really bad. I've been doing my best to weed as I can, because you can see there's just little weeds popping up everywhere. These are all weeds right there. And so that's what I've been doing for the past couple weeks. Today though, I put 2 new bags of soil here. This brown, how it's dark, you see how it's darker than this side over here? It's because it's a different brand and it's a new soil. So just put that on. And the white rocks, you'll see the little white rocks here, and those are my little markers for where my seeds were planted. So I start my okra seeds, you can see here, and I'll link the video above of last year's garden. It wasn't that great because I wasn't really paying attention, and I didn't really remember to actually film the entire process. But this time around I've been filming the entire process of my gardening so that I can kind of really get a good before and after. But my okra did really well last year, and all I did was I started 2 seeds in every section, and I took the strongest plants, and then if they were both strong, then I just would plant the second plant, you know, spaced out, because they need a decent amount of space. I do mine pretty close, but I didn't have any issues last year, so I'm going to do them again the same way. This pot is going to be for the beans, these little string beans here. The instructions say to soak them in water overnight, so I'm going to do that tonight, and then tomorrow I'm going to plant a few seeds in this pot here just to get them started, and then I'll eventually transplant them to the garden bed somewhere that works for them. I might have to get a larger pot and put it to the side of the garden. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do there yet, but just wanted to give y'all an update. Now y'all gonna be shocked because I've seen a lot of promise with my plants. Everything's pretty much sprouted at this point, so I'm gonna give y'all a rundown of what's going on. It looks a hot mess, but I promise you, once everything gets firmly rooted and they're big enough to thrive, it's gonna look really lush and green. Hopefully that's my goal, and just beautiful edible plants. So obviously, as I mentioned in my last video, this is where the zinnias are planted. The zinnias are in every corner of this garden. However, I've been noticing a really bad trend with the zinnia flowers that, oh shoot, I just stepped on lettuce, dang it. So let me just show you up close. This is one of my zinnias that has been the victim of some sort of bug attacking it at the stem, and they pretty much suck it dry in the middle of the stem, and then it falls over and it dies because it's dry right there where it's bent. And so, you know, the nutrients, the plant can't suck up any nutrients to the leaves anymore. I still have not figured out what bug is doing this, but it could be like some kind of aphid or some kind of worm, and it's happening over here on this one too. That's why that one's leaning to the side. I noticed it though is only in this corner of the box. This far right corner of the box is just not having the best luck. I have been spraying them with pesticide every few days, so I don't really know if the pesticide that I'm using is not working very great, but this side is really having issues with those particular types of bugs. Obviously you can see the leaves also have some damage on them as well, so I'm trying to figure out what to do to, you know, get these bugs away. Right here I have my habanero. So I had really 4 healthy habanero plants growing excuse me, and I decided to transplant them into their own smaller pots today so that they could thrive, get a little bit bigger, and then eventually I can transplant them into a section of the garden. Now this right here is one of the healthiest, the largest habanero plants, And so you can see it looks pretty perfect. And what I've noticed thus far is that everything that I started in a pot has not had too much damage from bugs. So that's something. All this bug damage is coming directly from this soil, this dirt. Here's another habanero plant, and here's another. So I have a total of 5 healthy habanero plants that are just doing their thing. And so I'm hoping that continues. I also have some lettuce here. This is called like mesclun. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but I was originally planting this all wrong. I had put a lot of seeds together in these areas, and I realized after I read the instructions on the package that you're actually supposed to thin them. So once the seeds start growing, the plants start growing, they kind of bunch up and you're supposed to separate them. So that's exactly what I did. I actually spaced them out appropriately, 6 inches apart. So that's what you're seeing, these little plants here. That's the biggest of all of my mesclun. And if you didn't know, mesclun is like it's a type of lettuce. The seeds kind of all look different, but it's just a type of lettuce, so that once it grows, you can thin the leaves and you eat the leaves because that will be your lettuce. So I have several of these grown. This is the largest of them all thus far. They're just so flimsy and thin, but these are holding on. So I'm praying that I will have a decent lettuce harvest. Now, I started the okra weeks ago, and finally this week they came through. So you see okra plant here, okra plant there, okra plant there. I have about 10 total. This one right here has also been the victim of some sort of bug eating it at the stem, and it's all toppled over. I've replanted it in its own pot in the hopes that maybe it could be salvaged, it'll overcome, but I highly doubt it. But you never know, And you might be wondering, what are the white circles? So I was reading that baking soda can be a deterrent for certain types of plant pests. So I decided to put baking soda around my smaller seedlings, because I think that's what the issue is. Like, these are seedlings and they just don't have it. They don't stand a chance to these bugs when they're so small. And that's why you're supposed to actually start a lot of plants in pots and then eventually transplant them to the garden. I just don't like dealing with all the pots, but I'm realizing it is kind of a necessity, so that's what I've started doing. This right here, guys, is my string beans, and this is the not so good one. This one is not looking good at all. Let's see if I can turn that around. I think it looks like that because it got waterlogged. These, like I said, these pots can hold a lot of water, and we had a ton of rain this week, and it just became really saturated. So I had to dump out all of that muddy dirt, which is right there and right here, and put new dirt in the pots, repot them, separate them. This one is really healthy. As you can see, not much bug damage, because I've been keeping this one nicely sprayed as well, but also because it was started in a pot. It was not started in the soil. I noticed also today that some basil seeds that I had planted weeks ago, didn't know if they were actually going to take, finally started growing. Who knows if they're actually going to get to full size, because they are in this in the dirt, growing in the dirt. Here's one right here as well. I don't know if they're going to get to full size. So if they don't, I do have the ones that I am starting in the pot, and I can transplant to the garden later. Now this corner is the corner of zinnias as well. I noticed there are some, leaves that have been eaten, but all in all, the stems on this side have just been not really touched. I'm so thankful, and they're really strong looking. They're growing really strong and tall compared to the ones on the other side. So I'm really happy with what's going on over here. Here are the tomato plants that I started over here. Eventually what I'm going to do is, once I grow those tomatoes in the small pots, I'm going to transplant them over here. I have a feeling that they're going to do a lot better than the ones that I started in the actual garden. We'll see. And then here's another corner of zinnias. Like I said, this side has not really fared as bad as the other side of the garden, so I don't really know why that is. That snail, I used to love snails, and now that I'm learning that they're a pest to plants, I'm so upset about it. But yeah, this is the zinnias of this corner. Lots of them. I thinned them out. They were all bunched together, and then I thinned them out. So now that they're all separated and they have enough room to grow big, hopefully they'll, in the next few weeks, I'll get some flowers from these things. But that's where my garden is at, guys. It's just been a work in progress. I'm out here a couple times a week, weeding, making sure that none of the weeds are taking a strong hold, and really trying to find a way to minimize all these pests. Just not like I said, I'm a new gardener and I don't have a ton of time to spend in the garden. That's another thing. I don't like to spend a ton of time out here because I don't have, it's only so many hours I have in the day. So I'm really trying to do my best with the things that are low maintenance. And thus far, from last year, I learned that once I get the basil started, it's pretty low maintenance and it does well out here, as well as the okra plants. The okra plants do very well out here as well, but they do require a lot of water once they get started. And so that's kind of some kind of trial and error. I'm hoping that these string beans do well. I would love to get some tomatoes this year. So we'll see. This is where I'm at.